Good morning, everyone, and peace be upon you all. My name is Ahmed Rahab, A-H-M-E-D, R-E-H-A-B. I'm the Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations in Chicago, known as CARE Chicago, the largest civil rights organization for the Muslim community here in the United States. This is one of the larger and most active chapters. I am here today with my friends here, a Jewish student from Northwestern University and a Palestinian student, to discuss two things. One is our reaction as CARE Chicago, and they'll speak for themselves and their groups as well, regarding the encampments, the student encampment movement and the student protests on campuses in Chicago and around the country. And two is the new anti-Semitism bill, H.R. 6090, that was passed by Congress yesterday and is expected to pass the Senate. In terms of the encampments, CARE Chicago stands in solidarity with these brave and courageous students in Chicago and around the country in their peaceful, nonviolent movement for peace and justice for Palestinians and everyone. And we consider them to be filling a moral void that has been left by cowardly and stuttering leadership by our elected officials. These young people are the true leaders in this country in this moment, while those who have been tasked with leadership by virtue of being elected into office shirk that responsibility and have turned their back on the American people, on morality, on humanity, for special interest lobby groups. Case in point is this ridiculous bill that has been proposed and has passed in Congress, 300 plus to 91. That is the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. This bill stipulates that the Department of Education Civil Rights Office must use the Illinois Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, which is highly problematic. It basically conflates Judaism and the Jewish people with Zionism and Zionists, people of the faith and the culture, with a foreign government of a foreign state and its actions. In terms of the encampments and the student protests, it's important to understand this is a peaceful, nonviolent protest that is not unlike the American pastime of similar protests that we saw against the apartheid situation in South Africa, that we saw against the Vietnam War in 1968. This is exactly the sphere in which this is happening. And it is not anti-Semitic in any way, and all claims otherwise are meant solely to chill and to question the legitimacy of these free voices. As a matter of fact, as apparent as the sun is outside, Jewish students are not only involved in these movements, but are leaders in these movements. And next thing you hear pass from the university, from Northwestern University, JVP, Jewish Voices for Peace, is not only someone who was involved in the encampment, but was a leader in organizing these encampments, along with Lucas, a Palestinian student there, and others. They've held seders, Passover celebrations, in the encampments. They've even had Israelis who've come to support the encampments. Israelis who are against what is happening, against the government, against Netanyahu, and against the policy of apartheid, murder, mass murder, and dispossession and displacement of the Palestinians. That is what they're standing up against. It's not standing up against Jewish people or the existence of Jewish people or the fact that someone is Jewish, they're Jewish themselves, many of them. That is preposterous to claim, and it is only meant to chill and to delegitimize a very legitimate, valid, and wonderful movement, quite frankly. The only violence we have seen has been violence against encampments, whether by pro-Israeli mobs at UCLA, as was widely reported, or by the police, who come in a militarized fashion to attack these encampments, as we saw in at Columbia University in New York and Arizona University of Arizona, and in other places as well. But they have stood to their principles of nonviolence and peace, using their voice as Americans should, their free voice, in a free assembly to speak out against what is happening and fill that moral void. We call on the presidents of these universities and their administrations to lay off these students, to not allow the doxing of these students, to not militarize the policing of these students, or to in any way seek vengeance against them through their grades or through their presence as students and their journey towards graduation, to not retaliate against their free expression of their moral conscience. This is a movement of conscience. And as far as the bill, and I'll close with this and I'll turn it to my colleagues. Again, it's important to understand that this bill is unconstitutional, prima facie unconstitutional. There is a clause in the Constitution, 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against rights. Section 241 makes it unlawful for two or more persons to agree to injure, threaten, or intimidate a person in the United States in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured by the Constitution. This includes freedom of speech and freedom of assembly, or laws of the United States because of his or her having exercised such a right. So it is insane for me to see that the Congress of the United States is the body that is legislating a law, a bill, that flies against the spirit of the founding of this country and the letter of its law for its Constitution that we stand with as a civil rights organization. We've often been accused post 9/11 as Muslims of being a threat to this country by the Islamophobic cottage industry because we cannot mesh with its freedoms. They hate us for our freedoms, George Bush once said. We love this country for its freedoms. A lot of us and our parents and grandparents moved out of other countries because of the lack of similar freedoms. Here in the United States, we're not only for these freedoms, we're leading right now to fight for these freedoms. And in fact, I'll say quite unapologetically and clearly, the threat to these rights are coming from the Zionist lobby in the United States. That is the lobby that fears freedom, that wants to censor, silence, dox, intimidate, bully in order to not allow the truth to come out. They're not interested in debate because they have no moral, righteous, or logical argument to counter the arguments of those who are for human rights and civil rights. This is for peace. This is not a nationalist movement. Okay? Jews who live in historical Palestine are not the problem. It is the systems of oppression that is the problem. Freedom from the river to the sea is not freedom of Jews. It's not dump them into the sea. It's freedom from the two-tiered systems, three-tiered, fourth-tiered, fifth-tiered. Palestinians are fifth-rate citizens in Israel proper. There is no proper one-state solution. And even in the two-state solution, when you look at the territories, these territories are subjected to humiliation daily at checkpoints. Their lands are taken through land grabs. The violent settlers are trained and encouraged by the IDF, which is a formal element of the Israeli occupation. And now there's death and destruction at massive levels by this Zionist regime. That is what freedom is from oppression, not from the Jewish people. And here in the United States, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our Jewish brothers and sisters who stand against this Zionist, violent Zionist oppression. And I'll close also by saying this office is squarely opposed to real and actual anti-Semitism. And our track record is quite clear. And that, to us, means hating Jews for being Jewish and dehumanizing Jews as a result of their being Jewish, born Jewish, or choosing to be Jewish. Just as Islamophobia is the same, hating Muslims for being Muslim and choosing to be Muslim. It isn't critiquing a Jew's actions, that's not anti-Semitic, or a Muslim's action, that's not Islamophobic. It's not Islamophobic to critique Hamas. It's not Islamophobic to critique Iran or the policies of that country, or Hezbollah. It's also not anti-Semitic, and never will be, to critique a foreign government that is genocidal in the moment. Mass graves have just been unearthed at hospitals in Gaza that this government created. That's not anti-Semitic to point out, it never will be. So we stand squarely against this law and with the student protests in Chicago and around the country. I now invite to the podium Paz, who is a Jewish student at Northwestern University in the Jewish Voices for Peace, and one of the organizers of the encampments and has led a Seder at the encampment at Northwestern.
Thank you for that introduction. As he said, my name is Paz. I'm a Northwestern student and I'm a member of Northwestern's chapter of Jewish Voice for Peace, as well as an organizer at the encampment that we've had over the past week. It is extremely important for me and my faith to separate my Judaism from Zionism. This encampment, my actions in this encampment were informed and driven by my faith. I was raised to learn that a core tenet of Judaism is enabling oppressed people to rise up against oppression. My own grandparents were, or my own great-grandparents were displaced from their land in Eastern Europe in the pogroms simply because of their Judaism. And that is what drives me to this work, because I've now had to bear witness to the Palestinian people being murdered and displaced simply because they are Palestinian. That is why it's so important to me to be a part of this encampment and to call on Northwestern and universities around the country to disclose and divest from the Israeli war machine. I would also like this opportunity to push back upon claims of anti-Semitism within our encampment. I and other Jewish students at Northwestern were organizers of this encampment, and we led several religious ceremonies, including a Seder during this time of Passover, a holiday that celebrates enslaved people rising up against their oppressor. And we were given the opportunity to celebrate our faith in this space. This encampment is the time at Northwestern during which I have felt the most connected to and supported in my faith at Northwestern, because it has given me the space to be both Jewish and anti-Zionist. And that is vital for me in order to be in my religion as a person and as a student. In addition, the bill that the House of Representatives passed is extremely harmful to myself and other Jews around the world. When my Jewishness is conflated with a government that is committing genocide and apartheid, it is dangerous for all Jewish people, because at that point, our faith is connected to an extremely harmful government and military. That is why it is important to me to have spaces to celebrate both my Judaism as it relates to Palestinian liberation. None of us are safe until all of us are safe. And that is why I believe as a Jewish person in a free and safe world for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. I want to emphasize something she said, which I hear from a lot of Jewish leaders in these movements, that they're not involved despite their Judaism. They're involved because of it and through it. These are the values that they were taught religiously and culturally by their families and their spaces. And this cannot be erased, just as the Palestinian realities are erased and replaced with the Zionist allegations free of fact-checking. Essentially, the line that this is, these encampments are anti-Semitic, are Netanyahu's lines, and they're being echoed in American media without appropriate vetting, while the voices on the ground and the facts on the ground show otherwise. I'll say one more thing and I'll turn it to Lucas. It's quite ironic that the Zionist lobby who presided over the push for this ridiculous bill through Congress would do so and then essentially then legislate through Congress that to say that they have power over Congress is illegal. Quite ironic that they would pass a law exhibiting this power over Congress to say that to note that they exhibit this power over Congress is hitherto illegal. I'll turn it now to Lucas, a Palestinian student at Northwestern University and a member of the Middle East and North African club there, and also an organizer of the encampments.
Thank you for that introduction. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lucas. I am a Northwestern student and an organizer. And it is true that I am Palestinian, but another part of my identity that is extremely important to me is my father's side, which are Ashkenazi Jews, and many of them are practicing Jews. So like Paz, I grew up in a family of practicing Jews that stressed these same values. In terms of my Palestinian family, I saw the same values there as well. My grandmother was born in Haifa, which is in Palestine, and in 1948, Zionist paramilitaries forced her and her family out of the country, and she has never been able to return since. Speaking in terms of the encampment, I would like to echo everything that Paul said. I think you explained it very well, so thank you for that. On a personal note, in my experience, I have not been practicing, it has been a long time since I practiced those Jewish ceremonies with my families, the Passover Seders, the Sabbaths, and to be in the encampment, to be around so many wonderful practicing Jews with Jewish Voices for Peace to be included in those ceremonies. That truly meant the world to me, and it actually made me feel more connected with my Jewish identity. So I'd also like to strongly refute any claims that there was any anti-Semitism at the Northwestern encampment. If anything, as I said, the encampment made me personally feel closer to my Jewish faith. The only time when I saw virulent, and I mean this is virulent anti-Semitism on display, was at the counter protest where people showed up from the community, almost majority non-Northwestern students. They stormed onto Northwestern's Deering lawn and they screamed things at our Jewish students who were inside the encampment. Things like you're not a real Jew, they would be ashamed of you, like you're sick, all kinds of horrible slurs that I would never say and could not say on television. And that's not mentioning all the horrible things that were said to our people of color, our Arabs, our Palestinians. This protest was actually attended by the Hillel executive director of Northwestern, Michael Simon. And this was, I stress, this was the only time that I saw anti-Semitism on display, coming from an outside source, targeting the students of our encampment, okay? In regards to the new anti-Semitism law that was passed by Congress, I am extremely disappointed in our nation. But unfortunately, I cannot say that I'm surprised. Although I have only, been on this earth for a few short years and I am just an undergraduate student, in my lifetime, I have seen the strong repression of any free speech or critique toward the Israeli government. It has long been the case in the United States that it is actually illegal, it is against the law to support the boycott, divest, sanction movement from Israel, which boycott, divest, sanction was the movement that was used to dismantle the apartheid in South Africa. It is now being applied to the apartheid state of Israel, and it is illegal in the United States and has been for some time to call to boycott, divest, or sanction Israeli companies or corporations or the government. This is a clear violation of free speech. Israel has long been an exception to the free speech rule in this country, unfortunately, which is the result of the Israeli lobby groups paying our Congress people not to represent us, but to provide protections and enable the Israeli government. And the new bill that has just been introduced and passed by Congress has only doubled down on this sentiment. No other country in the entire world are we as American citizens for whom free speech is a defining value of our democracy. For no other country in the world are we prohibited from critiquing the government of that country. Not the people, not the religious identities of that country, but the actual government. And let me be clear, all of this, every single thing, the news reports you see that critique the encampments, that claim that they're like cesspools of anti-Semitism, this law, all of it is to distract from the genocide that is actually going on in Gaza. Since October, 30,000 innocent men, women, and children have been slaughtered. Entire homes have been razed. There is not a single university, there is not an education system in Gaza. It has all been destroyed. Over 10,500 children have been murdered. In the encampment, there was a Palestinian woman from Gaza who spoke, and she had a sign with every member of her family who has died since October. That sign was filled on both sides, and on that list were hundreds of names of people who had been slaughtered. Hundreds. Children, women, men of all ages. And that is what's important here. That's what we are fighting for as students from this university. We are fighting for the disclosure of investments toward Israel, toward the war profiteering system, toward the apartheid, toward the occupation, which we have secured a promise from the university that they will make those disclosures. The next step is full divestment from those companies. We refuse as students to be complicit in our government, in our institutions, in our universities that are not only actively supporting this genocide, but they are profiting from it, and we will not be done there. We as students with a moral code will not rest, will not stop until Palestine has been liberated, until the people of Palestine are treated equally to Israeli citizens, to non-Arab people, we will not rest until that equality and liberation, until that has been achieved. Thank you.
You know, in conclusion, I have to say again, I have to express my pride in these young voices. With voices like these, this country might stand a chance in its future. With current leadership, it doesn't look very good. I'll conclude by saying that those who know me know that I'm a fan of Jewish resilience. If you study history, you know what I'm talking about. And talent, and creativity, innovation. I'm a fan of Palestinian resilience and their moral courage that is unmatched in the world today. This is not a conflict between Jews and Muslims, or Israelis and Palestinians even. This is truly a conflict between those who want to live together in peace and recognize their common humanity and live as equals and live through justice as well as peace, and those who want to intimidate and bully and dox, essentially those who prescribe to extremist, supremacist ideologies, whether it is anti-Semitism or Zionism. And there's no question for those who understand what Zionism truly is and what it has done, that it is a supremacist ideology that states that by virtue of your bloodline and bloodline alone, you have the privilege of certain citizenship, you have the privilege of certain rights and laws. And if you lack that bloodline, you're bleep out of luck. Even if you're born in that land, even if you're ancestrally related to that land through generations, you gotta leave. Others who've never been here for centuries, for millennia, but can claim this bloodline, they come and take your place. That is the definition of a supremacist ideology. This is not liberation for anyone. So let's just be very clear about these lines and what this conflict is about and where this encampment stands and where this law stands, this anti-Semitism between quotes law. Actual anti-Semitism we're against, but refrain from the critique of these supremacist ideologies and their lobby groups and their governments is absolutely not anti-Semitic. This is chilling American free speech and freedom of assembly, and all so-called red-blooded Americans, patriots, need to stand up against this attack on our freedoms. Thank you very much, and I bid you well.